Go ahead and tell me a little bit about Lucy.
Lucy is 3.5 years old now. Three.
She's almost 4.
She's almost 4 years old. We got her when she was 6 months old. We got her from a rescue. The rescue told us originally that she wasn't socialized as a puppy. And so we adopted her thinking that we would be okay and kind of work that out of her.
Mm-hmm.
And it's only, we were doing really well at first, and then it got to the point where people on the street were starting to walk up to her, and then she would, I would lunge at them, and they would be like, no, no, no. And I'm like, please don't come up to my dog. It is what it is. And so from there, it has progressively got worse, where we tried to bring her to family functions, and that didn't go well. She has aggression towards people, and we've never been able to take her to the vet successfully, where we had she was not sedated. We've always had to get her sedated. They've tried to put her on that the anti-anxiety medication, which only makes it worse.
Yeah.
For her. It does not work for her. And we wanted to fix this last year. We had the money saved up, and then COVID happened, and here we are.
Sure. COVID fucked things up for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, sir. What's your name?
Oh, Jeff. This is Jeff. Sorry.
Jeff?
Yeah.
Okay, pleasure. So, when you take her to family functions and it doesn't go well, can you explain more for me? What are you seeing? What is she doing?
So we keep her on a leash the entire time. If anybody comes up to her, she lunges. And
gets
and growls and
growling and kind of the get away from me. Don't approach me. Yeah. She
doesn't chase anybody.
No.
But she won't let. She's always growling and barking.
Yeah.
And if anyone gets close by, she'll lunge.
There was one time she escaped from our old house, and I was chasing after her, and she approached someone, jumped at them to get them to go away, and then ran away from them. Mm-hmm. She didn't try to bite them or anything. She just lunged and ran.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And what have you tried yourselves to try to help her? Treats, any kind of training that you've done?
Yeah, so we tried when we first got her. Every time that she had a good interaction with a person, we'd give her treats. She just seems very the reward behavior for treats. She doesn't respond to it very well. Treats aren't a big enough motivator for her. If she's already doing the stuff that she's supposed to, coming when we call her and stuff like that, she doesn't really care about the treats. But if there's somebody at the door and we have delivery people coming by, and if we try to get her to sit or anything, and treats don't matter to her.
She's too stressed out.
She's too stressed out. Yeah.
Yes.
If I were to walk into your home,
mm-hmm.
okay, and you were to do nothing to Lucy, no commands, nothing, what do you think she would do?
She would definitely run at you, barking. She would
growl.
She would growl and lunge.
Yep.
Probably jump at you. I've never seen her try to bite someone.
No, I haven't seen her try to bite someone, but to be honest, we're not very social people. We don't have people over a lot, especially right now. So we just got a new house and we wanted to have more people over, but we're not very social people.
Sure.
We take her for walks.
Yeah.
If I try to pet her, what do you think would happen? She'd
definitely nip at you.
Yeah, she would growl. Yeah. She would growl.
She would growl first and then nip. She's nipped us in her sleep. When she's pinned down, like she's wrapped in blankets and she can't get out easy. And she gets woken up and she doesn't know what's going on, and she'll love it up, but she's done that like once or twice more recently.
Yeah.
Which we think that she's definitely stressed out from the move. And
how long ago did you move?
December
14th.
Are you guys in the city?
No.
You're in a suburb?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you move from city to suburb or suburb to suburb?
City to suburb.
Yeah.
Okay. So by now, is she still kind of, would you say like not like she's not kind of comfortable yet in the new home?
She's definitely more comfortable now.
Okay.
We think that the bed stuff is she's starting to do more resource guarding with the beds.
Okay.
And she did what she didn't used to do before. So since she moved, like she doesn't, like if she's lying on the couch, she doesn't want to get moved. She doesn't like it when we sit down next to her when she's sleeping, anywhere she is. She's always been she's always resource guarded with her food. And we have a second dog, an older dog who is very friendly and very well behaved. But if he gets, during feeding time, if he walks towards the food, she lunges at him and nips him. I mean, she's got a soft mouth. She doesn't bite hard at all, even with toys. She's caught like 4 animals on walks and stuff, and has not killed or hurt anything. So I'm not sure that she even knows that she can do that.
Anything else?
Any other issues we've had?
That's really the big ones with her.
Yeah, well, she's unsuccessfully potty trained.
Oh yeah.
She knows that she's supposed to go outside, but she won't wait.
She won't, like, okay. We've tried the bell on the doors, because that was one thing that in the past I've had great success with dogs, and she assumes that the bell is when she wants something, not that she needs to go outside to go to the bathroom. So
yeah, so she just rings it constantly. And she's gotten to the point now where she'll go to the bathroom, then ring the bell.
Yeah.
Which isn't helpful.
She doesn't like come to us.
Yeah. Anything else?
We do have a bark collar for her that when she like barks, we don't have like the shock on, it's the vibrate one where she barks and it vibrates. So that has, whenever you put that on, she is less likely to bark, which is nice, but it's not something we've kept on like 100%.
Okay.
No, and she only does it when we only put it on when she's very agitated at something going on, like when we have maintenance being done in the house or something where we have to lock her in a room to try and get her to just lie down and be okay.
Mm-hmm.
We generally try to stay with her when stuff is going on to keep her calm.
Mm-hmm.
And we've tried the melatonin calming treat stuff to help her relax. It makes her sleepy, but she's still stressed.
Yeah. And is that the bar collar? Is that the e-collar that you noted you had purchased, or is that something separate?
Something separate.
May I see your e-collar?
Yeah. Let me, one moment, sorry.
Yep.
Bring it.
Yeah, we have not used the e-collar because we just don't feel like we have the appropriate knowledge yet.
Correct. And then what are your goals for Lucy here?
Well, I don't. I'll let Jen talk about that because I'm not sure her goals are the same as mine.
What do you mean?
Well, I just don't want her. I want to be able to take her to family functions, to be able to kennel her,
Okay.
and
Did they give you a weight class? Sorry to interrupt you.
Easy 900.
But is there like a weight class on there?
Oh. Great. Small collar receiver for dogs as little as 5 pounds.
Okay, so there's no like max size, right?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I actually did put it on her, but I didn't use it. So it's fitted. I mean, I at least tried to fit it for her, but.
No.
Can you pull out the collar itself? Let me see it. Okay. And I'll explain why I wanted to see it and stuff. And then, so go ahead and just tell me your goals there, Jen.
I mean, I would love to take her to family functions for her not to be so stressed out and not have her nip, lunge at people. I would love to be able to take her to the vet without, her being so stressed out where she lunges at people. Trying to think. I think that's really it for me.
So the reason why I wanted you to say it, because I was unsure if you wanted her to be friendly with people.
I would love for her to be friendly with people. I would love, but that's a lot to ask.
Yeah.
I feel like for her, I would love for her to be friendly, but there was one person that she was friendly with,
your dad.
and it was my dad. And it was only because he was staying with us for like a week and a half, and after like 2 days, she finally like actually started laying with him, and he was able to pet her, and she even like started like licking him and licking his hands, but had a lot to do with the fact that he wasn't pursuing her, and he was very patient. Like he would put his hand out and then see what she would do, and depending on what he would do, like he would either pull away or just stand there while she kind of did her thing, and then she would calm down and actually lay with him.
Just took a lot of time.
It took around 2 to 3 days
of him being there constantly.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Not that I can think of.
Okay. Okay, so I agree. I think you have a fear-based dog. And when it comes to work with these kind of cases, I always aim for 110% because you're not going to get 110%, but you're going to achieve a lot more because you pushed for more. So it's like if you can set yourself to this bar, you can set yourself to this bar, right? And if I aim for this, I may not get it, but I end up down here. If I aim for this, I may not get it, but I'll end up here. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So realistically speaking, I can't make every dog social again. Have I? Yes. But there's a lot of variables in play. So I had one of my first aggression cases was actually a fear aggression case. It was a pit bull too. Her name was Alaska. Her video is actually on my YouTube channel from years ago. And her family were very social. They would have people over 3 to 4 times a week. So after we started the foundation and I gave them the exercises to open her up and socialize her, we turned her around. But they had a very active social life, so it was easier for them, right? I've also had clients who have someone come over like once every couple of weeks, and it can happen. It's just going to take a longer time frame, you know. And in some cases, I can have someone who goes above and beyond to socialize their dog, and the dog just doesn't want anything to do with people, you know. So it's like I always educate people, and I go practice and, you know, continue to push, and then we'll see what happens in time. Okay. In your case, I think she's capable to a degree. Okay, so the fact that she got over your dad in 2 to 3 days makes sense to me because he was around 24/7 for 2 to 3 days, right? And it probably would have gone a little faster if he actually didn't like try to reach out to her and stuff and just completely ignored her. Okay, because when you get a fearful dog, the biggest problem is distrust. And people think we create trust by talking to dogs and baby talking to them in high-pitched voices and throwing food at them. And I go, no, you build trust by ignoring them, you know, not putting pressure, any kind of social pressure on them. And eventually, if the dog wants something to do with you, they'll start to, like you said, lay down next to him and start to seek him out and start to initiate contact on their own, you know. So it's the same thing with kids. If you have a shy kid, and you just keep trying to talk to them, you make them more uncomfortable. You make them shy away more. But if you ignore them and pretend they're not there, they'll open up to you, you know? So dogs are the same way. So I think realistically speaking, having her open up to your family is possible. I think people coming over is possible. People outside of the home, I don't care about because that's not realistic. Because one, you don't know how that person's going to behave. You know, you can tell them like, hey, you know, if they're like, oh, can I say hi to your pitty? You're like, actually, we're training. And do you mind like following these instructions? And they're just like, oh, look at your dog. And I'm like, hey, you're not listening to me, right? Or people just go like, oh, I'm great with dogs. I can do it. You know, you don't know who you're going to come across. So I don't worry about the people outside. What I care about outside is that she's not lunging and barking at people and she's minding her business. Okay. That's social. So there's a notion in today's world that every dog has to love everyone and everything. That is not true. Okay. Are there dogs like that? Sure. But that's not every dog, just like that's not every person. I go to Target, but I don't say hello to everybody. But that doesn't make me antisocial, right? But I'm also not yelling at people, right? I just coexist. But for dogs, for whatever reason, people expect them to want to say hi to everybody and everything and all that stuff. And it's just not realistic. So, but what I want her to do is be able to be out in the open world and see people and have people walk by, joggers, skateboarders, rollerbladers, whatever. And she may not be comfortable, but she knows not to react. Okay. But inside the home, family, friends, stuff like that, that's more realistic. The vet visit stuff is kind of up in the air. Okay. Mm-hmm. Because, so I just started the case. His name's Doug and he's a pit bull. And he just had his second class on, I didn't see him this Friday because she's out of town, but the week before. He's only had 2 classes. This dog is off the rocker. Okay. And if you want to get an idea of, you know, just human reactivity and stuff, he's a good case to watch because he's extreme. But after the first class, because he was on 3 types of drugs. He was on gabapentin, fluoxetine, and I think doggy Prozac or something. Okay. He was on 3. They saw a veterinary behaviorist and like a behaviorist and all that stuff. They just, the veterinarian just put him on drugs. Drugs didn't do anything. She also feels like it made him worse. They couldn't go to the vet because they had to sedate him. He'd go up already drugged up and then they would sedate him. So she had her first class And she, in between the first class and the second class, she had to go to the veterinarian to get him his vaccinations. That was the first time in 3 years that they didn't have to vaccinate him.
Wow.
Okay. And it wasn't because of drugs. It's because I gave her the tools and the know-how on how to de-escalate her dog.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, I also have another dog. He's actually here with me right now, boarding. His veterinarian is down in Indiana. Same thing. They had him take like 4 or 5 pills of something. So I showed up because nobody wanted to handle him. And he's just drooling. He's just like kind of like this, right? I walk into the clinic with them. The veterinarian walks in, and right off the bat, once the veterinarian walks in, it's like those drugs didn't even exist. He was just blowing up, right? I calm him down. They give him some sedation. They leave. They come back 30 minutes later. They try to pick him up. He blows right back up. So they sedate him some more, you know? And finally, they come back in, and they're able to pick him up, but he like grumbled, you know, but he was just too out of it, right? And it's because the stress levels override the drugs. I had a client whose dog, the veterinarian sedated him, and they said they gave him enough sedation for a rhino, and the dog still wouldn't cut it out. Yes. Okay. That's the power of animal instinct. Okay. And stress and adrenaline and stuff like that. Okay. So here, the reason with the vet visit thing is, one, how do they handle it? Right. So even though they're veterinarians and they're vet techs and stuff, they actually don't know how to handle dogs like that. Okay. We know how to handle dogs like that. That's why the dogs that we work with are able to stay at my facility without any issues. And if there's an issue, we correct it and we get it under control, and then we can continue on with life.
Mm-hmm.
But vet techs and veterinarians don't know how to handle that stuff. And typically they almost always resort to drugs or manhandling the dog, which actually just escalates the problem because the dog doesn't understand they're there for a checkup. Okay, he's just like, I'm in this environment, there's dogs, there's scents, a lot of stimuli, I'm stressed out. It's not been pleasant experiences when I've come here before. And then they try to manhandle him and the dog panics. So then it just incites more aggressive behavior. But it's because the dog's under stress. So it's like if you were to be tackled by a police officer for absolutely no reason, and they were to start, overpowering you forcefully, you're going to panic and you're going to start fighting back because you're like, what the hell are you doing? Right? Same thing for the dog. So when it comes to that stuff, it's kind of hit or miss. I give you, of course, the education to handle these things. I'm more than happy to come along on a vet visit if they allow people in to show like, this is what you're going to do and all that stuff. I've done it before. It's just now with COVID, some clinics don't even let people bring their dog in.
That's our biggest problem with her right now is we can't, there's nowhere we can take her that will allow me in with her.
Right.
And I can, she's fine with me handling her. So as long as I can blind her to the vets that, she's not looking, can't see him, they can at least give her a shot. But, they can't do something more complicated than an injection. They can't do a blood draw. She has not been able to get her heartworm check yet because we've never been able to get her a blood draw. For me, that's a concern, just the health of my dog.
Yeah.
Being able to take her to a vet who's going to be able to do something with her.
Right. So what part of Chicago? You guys southwest, northwest?
We're north. No.
North. Okay.
Yeah, we're in Grays Lake.
Oh, you're up there.
Yeah, we're up here.
Yeah. I've been up there, yeah. So the way I would approach this is a couple of things. Is part of the aggression towards people is the fear of contact. Okay. So one way of approaching it is I would use or push physical contact first, because that's the thing she absolutely does not want. And it's her brain telling her this person's going to hurt you. So she's assuming threat, she's assuming danger, so she goes on the offense and to keep people at bay, to keep herself safe. Okay. So in order to get her over the hump and get her to learn to open up to people, we have to do that. Okay. So this is why I have a suit. It's a 60-pound suit, or I have a sleeve that protects my arm. So I can, because the dog doesn't know that that's not a part of me.
Mhm.
Okay. So I can touch the dog and maybe she bites. Okay. So if she bites, it allows me to evaluate the power of her bite. Is she really willing to bite? Does it take a lot before she bites, or does she bite right off the bat? I'm able to evaluate a lot of things of your dog. Okay. So like, let's say she does bite, whether it's a weak bite or a strong bite. I go, okay, the option is there for her if put under that kind of stress. We have to correct the teacher that biting is not an option. Okay, so there's 4 responses to stress: fight, flight, avoid, and submission. Okay, so if I take her on a leash and I start to touch her and she freaks out and she might try to run away, she might try to avoid me by like running around, or she might bite the sleeve, or she might just take it. Okay, this has to happen. If she bites, she's corrected to learn that biting is not an option. If it doesn't happen, we don't do anything. I might correct her just to help settle her down. So it's kind of like in the movies when you see someone slap someone in the face from like, because they're too panicked, to like, just like, hey, cut it out. Kind of similar. And then she's like, holy crap, like this person I just met is touching me, but nothing bad is happening. And that's what she needs to learn, is she needs to get over the concept of like, I think something bad's going to happen, and we actually do it and teach her like nothing bad happens. Okay. From there, once we get her over that hump, it makes other people being able to touch her easier. Okay. Because all she needs is the foundation of. Okay. And then we start doing discipline and structure. And it's these 2 things working hand in hand. And then we see, what do we get? Okay. So the first thing we always teach with all our cases is the leash walking, heel. Which is if there's any leash reactivity towards humans or dogs or whatever it be, heel has to happen. Okay, it teaches the dog how e-collar works, how it turns on and off. If you put an e-collar on a dog and you press the button, they typically want to move. So heel is a moving behavior. So it allows us to teach them the concept of discipline, but it also allows the dog to express the need to move. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And we guide them through it. So she understands like, oh, this tool is a communication device. Okay. So that later on, as we're continuing to apply it to her behavior, she's associating what it is and why it's happening, why it's turning on, and then how it's turning off. Okay. It's not, people typically think you're going to put the collar on a dog. If the dog's being bad, you're going to just punish them. Okay. That's how you can make things worse, because the dog doesn't have a good concept of why it's happening. Okay. So dogs aren't meant to have their muscles contracted. Okay. That is a technology that we've created and we've used to train our dogs. And the reason why it's effective is because it is physical. It is something that she feels that is uncomfortable, because dogs are physical animals. They bite each other. Okay. So this is why we have tools like the pinch collar, which looks like the spiky looking collar, or, e-collar, because the prong collar was designed to mimic a dog bite. But the issue when we're dealing with fear-based type dogs is, in her mind, her aggressive response is valid. Okay. Because she's thinking, you're a threat, so I'm going to protect myself and my family. Okay. So if I were to correct her at the prong collar, it would just reaffirm in her brain that I am a threat, right? Because she's like, I think you're going to hurt me. And then I yank her and she's like, holy shit, you hurt me, right? It just makes that solid. If you correct her, in her mind, she's like, why are you correcting me? I'm scared and I'm protecting us. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Right? So it's like, if you're seeing something bad happen and someone's like, oh, I'm going to call the police, like, don't call the police, right? But except you could explain the logic of like, don't call the police because blah, blah, blah. For dogs, we don't have that. You just correct her and she's like, why are you correcting me? I'm not doing anything wrong. Okay. E-collar, dog doesn't know where it's coming from. I could have the remote. She doesn't know it's me. You could have the remote. She doesn't know it's you. Okay. It's out of the blue. It's out of nowhere. So it keeps everybody neutral, so that we don't create any more confrontation or tension. Okay. So that's why all my dogs are trained on remote collar. Any dog or puppy over 6 months, whether it's obedience or behavior, is e-collar trained here. Okay, because it's easy. It's not because I'm lazy. It's because you're not dog trainers. You need something that is going to be effective as quickly as possible, that you can easily replicate even without me being there. Okay. And everything's at the press of a button. So it doesn't matter how big and strong you are. So like earlier I did a consultation with a German Shepherd. The boyfriend or husband was a big dude. And then the wife was a small petite lady with a German Shepherd. And the guy's like, well, when I walk the dog is fine. And the wife's like, well, when I walk the dog is 100% bad. And I go, and I saw the husband or whatever correct the dog, and physically he had the strength to correct the dog at the degree the dog needed, but the wife didn't. So the dog saw that, and he's like, oh, you can't correct me like dad corrects me. So when I'm with you, I know I can get away with stuff. When I'm with dad, I don't have to behave. Okay, e-collar removes that. Because if you press the button at 50 and Jeff presses the button at 50, it's the same. Okay, if I press the button at 50, it's the same. So that's why it's my go-to tool. Plus, it gives you off-leash control right off the bat. So it's like, why would I use anything else? So the way I would work with this is, first thing I do is put her under pressure, make contact with her. Where does she go? Okay, she might panic and do nothing. She might try to bite, and then I'll tell you, like, okay, this is what you're looking at, just so you're aware. We would correct it, we move on. Or she might just shit herself, because now the thing that she's so scared of is actually happening, and I'm not backing off. Because that's the other thing. If I make contact with her with my suit on, she can give me her best shot, but I'm not going to go anywhere. So the brain gets overloaded, and she's like, holy crap, it's not going away. My best tactic or ace up my sleeve of biting isn't working. Holy crap. And all of a sudden the dog just like lets it go. Okay. And it looks bad, or it can look bad, but it's just part of the process. Once you get them over the hump of contact, then we start to press her more. And then so like I do the blunt of it. I get all the bad stuff out. So that's why when you start working her with people, we don't see that with them. Does that make sense? Because in order to get her to be social, you have to push her socially.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So we would do that first, most likely, see what happens. She might be bluffing and just shut up and do nothing. If that happens, then we just go to leash walking. It's 2 classes. I teach the first class because we need discipline in the brain. We need it to address reactivity. You come back class 2. What are the changes that we've seen? What are the improvements that we've seen? Because I want to see how is discipline affecting her demeanor. Okay. And then everything from that is kind of like play it by ear. Okay. So there's a structure to it, but it's not cookie cutter, because it depends on how you and her progress with the classes. Okay. If everything's going well, probably by class 3 to 4, we're going over how to start socializing her with friends and family. I would say, start now going to places with her, even just going to Home Depot and walking around, exposing her to the stuff that we now withdraw her from. Okay. The more you start to bring her out, the faster she's going to open up. Okay. The one thing that is not going to change is if someone were to knock or ring your doorbell, her barking in response.
Yeah.
Because that's a separate context. Okay. So if at 6 o'clock friends are coming over for dinner, you know that. So if someone shows up at 5:30, it's just like, oh, they're half an hour early. But for your dog, regardless of if you tell her like, hey, Lucy, we invited our friends coming over, they're going to be here at 6. She don't know that. So when the doorbell goes off, she's just going to start barking.
Yeah.
Okay. And you could have the same person come over every day at the same time, and she will never learn that it's going to be a person behind the door. Mm-hmm. Okay. Because she doesn't understand that. She hears the sound. She's gonna become territorial in response, and then we respond to her. Okay. So that's something that we would show you how to address to calm her down when people come over, so that she's not suspicious and territorial. Okay. Because what's happening is when the doorbell goes off or whatever, she triggers, she becomes territorial, but she's also fearful. So now you have a fearful, weak dog in a territorial mindset, which makes them uneasy because they're not built for it. She doesn't have the confidence to handle that kind of stress.
Mhm.
So it's like, some people are born leaders, some people are not born leaders. That's how it works. It's 80% followers to 20% leaders. Because if everybody was a leader, we'd be fighting over things all the time, right? So in this case, she's a follower, but she's fulfilling a leader type role in that moment, but she's not built for it, okay? So then I would show you how to calm her down, how to de-escalate her. We wouldn't worry about socializing in the beginning. You just want to learn how to calm her down. Once that's under control, then I go, now you start pressing with socialization, okay? And it's not so much about obedience. It's about learning how to communicate with your dog to tell her like, yo, you're cool. We know that someone's here. Thanks for letting us know, but you can chill out now. You can relax. We're going to let this person in. We got this under control now. Okay. So we're going to use body language and stuff like that to communicate with her. That's nothing like where you would say sit, stay, or anything like that, because it has nothing to do with the conversation. Because if you tell her to sit and the person comes in, she's still going to want to be territorial towards them. You're trying to shut down the territorial mindset so she can just learn to chill. Okay. Question so far?
No.
No.
Explain everything. So that's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
So the way I would break this down, so we have family functions and then friendly of people, right? Vet visits is kind of up in the air. I was going to say I could recommend you a vet, but they're all the way by like Dalton, Indiana.
Okay.
So you guys are up in Grays Lake, so that's probably like a 2 to maybe 3 hour drive. But they're the one that I went with my clients to, and they allowed him to go in. And then when he needed me to come in with him, they allowed us to go in as well.
Gotcha.
So if that's information you'd like, I can give that to you as well later on. So what would determine cost and length of time and stuff is how much you're trying to achieve. Okay. The way I approach this is I got a feel for what's going on, and I have a general idea of like how long this is going to take, kind of bare bones. And then if it's like this is what you would get in 6 classes, then there's 9 and 12, but you would just achieve more. Okay. So we need two classes on heel. Okay. We would cover the touch most likely day 1 because I got to get a feel for where she's at. If that's not as bad as I think it is, because I won't know until I actually make contact with her, then it should be an easy progression, okay? Because then it's just knowledge. If it's complicated in the sense that like she really has intent and she's like, no, man, like you're not going to touch me and I'm going to really defend myself, then it's more time correcting the aggression and not so much time doing obedience, okay? So the behavior part is a variable. Obedience is easy. I've been doing this for 10 years. I know how much I can achieve within a time frame as long as the owner does their homework. Okay. Behavior is the unknown because sometimes I walk in and I think it's going to be bad and it takes me a class to fix it. Sometimes I show up thinking it's going to be easy and it's a pain in the ass. Okay. So I just take it as it goes. So 2 classes on heel, a class on touch sensitivity to like correct her, learn her how to settle and just pushing her boundaries. Come back, revisit touch sensitivity to see what does she retain from the previous time. Okay, so if I touch her the first time and she spazzes out and I calm her down and I teach her how to handle it, then I leave and I come back a week later. And if I'm able to touch her and pick up right where we left off, we're good. Okay, if she reverts right back to day 1, then I'm like, this is going to be a process. Okay, so about 3 to 4 classes there. Learning how to de-escalate her, calm her down, or correct behaviors we don't want is a class. And then how to socialize her is another class. Okay, meaning like we would want to muzzle her. So we'd have to muzzle condition. We can send you videos on that. Because let's say you take it to a family function and you're like, hey, we're working with the trainer. She's doing really good. Pet her. No one's going to want to pet her, right? Yeah. The muzzle helps people feel safe. Okay, it takes the anxiety off of you guys because you're not worried about what happens if she does something. takes the anxiety off the people that are going to be petting her, because they're like, okay, if she tries something, I can't get hurt, right? And allows you to socialize her and expose her to situations, just knowing like that you're safe. Okay. And then in terms of progressing past the muzzle, it really just depends on the case. Some people, every time they go somewhere new, like the first 15 minutes, they might have the muzzle on. But once the dog like settles and they feel comfortable, they'll remove the muzzle. Some people will keep the muzzle on always, just in case, because they can't, like, let's say there's kids running around or something like that, and they're like, okay, we're just keep this on as precaution. That's fine too. And some people get to the point where they just progress past the muzzle. The dog is great and is like normal with the people they know. Mm-hmm. Okay. I don't know how it's going to work out. It's all just as we go along. If you want to achieve more with her, we have 9 and 12 classes as well. So 6, I'm prioritizing only what you need to address this problem. Okay. If it's straightforward and we're making great progress, I keep teaching more stuff, like obedience wise. If it's taking more time, we're only going to cover the heel, but then we're spending more time addressing the behavior. Okay. If we do the 9 classes, the next thing I'd most likely cover is probably stationary control. So if you go to a family function with her and you tell her, Lucy, lay down, she's not going to move for 2 hours. Okay. Like you know where she's at. She's not sitting there like grumbling, like pulling all over the place. It's like, go here, don't move for the next few hours. And then you tell your family, like, you know, Lucy's going to be there. She's not going to move. Give her 8 feet of space. Okay. And then 12-week would allow us to cover more obedience. The next most important thing would be recall, or come when called, in my opinion. Because there's 6 commands: sit, stay, down, come, place, heel. The one that has to happen is heel. We would probably cover place command, which is stationary control, if you're trying to take her to family functions or whatever. And then the recall is really just there if she's going to be off leash, or, you know, anywhere or whatever, if she were to get off leash. And I know you may not think it, where you're like, man, her being off leash, well, you're crazy, man. But it happens. You know, that's why I always shoot for 110%, because as you start to see your successes, you're going to want to do more. Yeah. Okay. And it happens. I get people that are like, I would never let my dog go off leash, you know, and then later on their dog's off leash because of the methods. Okay. Because on or off leash, as long as I have my remote, she's got that collar on, I have a means of control. But also, if we've put her under pressure and the worst thing that she feared was contact, and she sees someone walking, that's easy peasy for her. Does it make sense? The stressor of someone walking by is not the same anymore because she's already broken that boundary of being touched. So it allows her to easily more accept lower levels of stress where she would typically be responsive to. Okay. So questions about any of that stuff?
No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
The potty training stuff, that's why I don't teach dogs to use the bell. Because that's what happens sometimes.
Yeah.
Is she's learned that bell means outside, right? Not so much potty. And then it's like, well, if you don't catch her in time, then she's like, all right, well, I rung the bell. She pees. Or she's not been taught to hold on a schedule.
Yeah.
Okay, so we always put all our puppies on schedules. And so the typical norm is before work, after work, and before bed is what most people do with their dog's potty schedule. Is we just use the crate and put the dog on a routine to start getting the body to build the habit of I go pee and poop at 7:30 in the morning. I go again at 6:00 p.m. and I go again right before bed. And eventually, after time, her body acclimates to that new schedule. And then we can remove the crate and then she's potty trained. Okay. But as long as there's an option for her to pee without an aversive or correction, so to speak, she's going to keep doing it. Okay. Because if you take her out every 4 hours to like avoid that problem, for example, you're building her on a 4-hour schedule. So then one day when it's like 4 hours and 30 minutes, she's gonna go because she's past the time frame. So like when I get clients that have backyards or patios with like little grass patches, the dogs typically get trained on like a 2-hour schedule because it's so easy for them to just open the back door and let the dog go out whenever. But then the dog doesn't learn how to hold their bladder or their bowel movements. And that's why they end up having accidents. Okay. So that's something we can cover. It's really just, this is what you're going to do. And then you just start practicing it in terms of like, it's just basic potty training stuff.
Gotcha.
The resource guarding, you said she resource guards the beds towards you and the other dog, or just the other dog?
Toward us is new.
Yeah, us is very new.
Okay. So like, and you said like if she's like sleeping on the bed and you like lay down next to her, she'll like rumble or something.
Yeah, so she's slept in our bed since we got her. We tried doing crate training with her the first couple nights we had her. And she had major diarrhea all over the place, and it
was just a mess.
Yeah, and then once we got her in the bed, there was no getting her out. So she's been in our bed without issue for a long time, and then her dad passed, and we got the other dog to take care of, and as soon as he came into the picture was when we found out that anytime that he approaches the bed or her dog beds, anytime he would come near, she would growl at him and lunge at him and nip at him.
But he doesn't care.
He doesn't care. He'll keep going and walking into her bed and lay down next to her.
Yeah.
What kind of dog is it?
The Black Lab German Shepherd mix.
How old?
11.
Oh, okay, sure.
Yeah.
So that's the trickiest one. I can't make her accept the dog, Yeah. Like I can't make her like him coming into her personal space. Yeah. Okay. We can definitely correct it. We can definitely teach her, to not go after him and stuff like that. But we can't make her like him coming into her personal space when she's on the bed. Okay. So that might be something where we just don't allow her to do certain things, and so even though there hasn't been anything yet, doesn't mean that nothing can't happen, because it happens where like I've had clients where their dogs will have little scuffles here and there, and they're just scuffles, and then one day one dog just like tears up the other dog, or I've even come into homes with dead dogs as well. And, it's just the notion of like, oh, well, but the dog's never actually punctured when biting. I'm like, yeah, because it hasn't chosen to yet, so maybe one day the dog's just like, oh, you know what? I'm tired of this BS. You keep coming into my bed and I keep trying to tell you not to. And today is the day I'm going to let you know, because they don't think like we do. Dogs are primal. I think earlier when you mentioned something about the soft bite, is that it wasn't the animal thing. It was something else. I think it was actually with the other dog, where like she's nipped at him or whatever, but never actually bitten.
Yeah.
And it can be one, lack of confidence. She doesn't have the confidence to do a full-on bite. Just like with people, like there's people that are non-confrontational, people that are confrontational, right? So it's like if put in a situation, they know how to punch, but they don't want to punch. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So same thing for the dog, but doesn't mean that one day it couldn't happen. So I'm not trying to make you paranoid, but just making you aware, because it's easy to get complacent with stuff like that, and then something bad happens. Yeah. Okay. So we'd have to figure out how to work around that. When it comes around resource guarding food and stuff, easiest thing to do would be to separate for feeding or whatever, if you're not already doing that. Yeah. Or preventing the other dog from wandering if she's a slow eater or whatever, even though she's just been darting at him and stuff like that. Again, just trying to prevent that stuff from happening. And then when she's done eating, you can put everything away. Questions about any of this stuff?
No.
When it comes to the e-collar that you purchase, I believe, how much does Lucy weigh?
60.
Yeah.
60 something.
Yeah.
Yeah, 60 something. Okay. How long ago did you get that collar?
Oh, like 6 months.
Ooh. Okay. So a couple of things. That collar you got is a good brand. Okay. E-collar Technologies is like the second best brand in my opinion. The problem is, even though it says for 5 pounds and over, that output, in my opinion, is for 35-pound dogs and under.
Okay.
Okay. And this is super important. So when I have to determine what collar a client needs, I take a number of things into consideration. First thing is size of the dog. Okay. Second thing is breed. Third thing is what behavioral issues are we dealing with? Okay. Because, so I had a gentleman a couple of years ago, did a board and train with another trainer, 90-pound pit bull. Okay.
Ooh.
And he goes, I do the consultation. He's like, the dog knows everything. He's like, but the dog doesn't listen. And I go, okay. And he's like, and I use the remote. He's like, and I'll be really high on the collar and the dog doesn't listen. So I'm like, all right, well, maybe the dog wasn't conditioned correctly. I was like, can I see your remote? And it was the same model, same size, different model, sorry. And I look at it, I'm like, the reason your dog's not listening is because that dog, that's meant for a 35-pound dog. And he's like, what? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, your dog's 90 pounds. So it's like a featherweight to a heavyweight, right? There's a reason why we don't put a featherweight to a heavyweight in the boxing ring, okay? So here, the collar that I would recommend is the Dogtra Black Edition. It's meant for 70 pounds and over, okay? So the difference is the output. So that collar, 60 could be like 30 on mine, okay? So you get more punch with less power, okay? And the reason why you want more power is you have to account for her size. She's 65 pounds. She's a pitty. I have a pitty too. I love pitties. However, a reactive or aggressive pit bull is much different than a reactive and aggressive German Shepherd. They're different. Okay. 3 stress levels. Okay. So that's why with like the drugs and stuff, right? Like I was telling you about the poncho earlier, the German Shepherd that had to go to the vet, showed up on like 4 or 5 pills, sedated and got sedated again because stress levels. Okay. And then plus dogs are already physically tough as it is because they're used to physicality because they bite each other. So they're already naturally more resilient to physical discomfort. So we get all those things together and I go, okay, well, if she becomes aggressive, we're going to have to make sure that we have enough output to shut her down. Now, is it possible that that collar that you have could shut her down? Yes. Okay. My only issue with it is, let's say it's a situation where she's really under stress, okay, and it's not enough, is we won't know until we're there. And I wouldn't want you to be in that situation in a context that's not controlled. With me, it's not a problem. I put on the suit, have at it, right? Because nothing's going to happen to me. It's what happens if you're working with her with a friend or something or whatever, and she blows up, and now we don't have the means of shutting her down. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So my suggestion is, I think you're probably beyond the return date. If you've never used it, you can practically sell it for new and get a bulk of what you paid for it back. I've had people look for collars and get good deals on them and stuff. So that's what I would recommend. And we would provide you with the information for the Black Edition. You can get them on Amazon. But that's the highest powered collar, less stuff to worry about. Okay, because then it's not like, are we going to have enough power to shut her down?
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm in the boat of I'd rather have it, not need it, than need it, not have it.
Yeah.
Okay. That collar, I believe, runs about 325-ish with tax. It's a fully waterproof system, both the transmitter and the receiver. It's a 1 mile range, so plenty of range for the standard family pet. And in my opinion, one of the best collars they have out right now. Okay, and it's a newer model that they just released, and I have it. I have a Doug the Pitty. He's on it. I have a Borbell that's on it. She's 105 pounds. And I got a number of other large breed dogs, Great Danes and stuff that are on that collar, and it does really well. Okay. Questions about any of this?
No.
No.
So the last thing would be, because you guys are in the suburb. So because of COVID, I used to do home to home, but then COVID happened and nobody wanted people in their home and all that stuff. Is people started traveling to me. I have a facility here in Logan Square. I'm right off the expressway. And we were at some point we're going to transfer to Oz Park. Are you guys familiar with Oz Park? In the city of Lincoln Park, yep. Super busy park, very, very busy. And we train there because it's so busy and it's great for people because there's distractions and all that stuff. Okay. So we could do a couple of things. One, you travel out to me. We'd probably do the touch stuff in my facility. Okay. Just in case if it looks bad, we don't got people going like, what the hell's going on? Get all that addressed. If all that looks good, or if it's not as bad as we thought it was or whatever, then we can transfer to Oz Park pending when you start. And then we will do all that stuff. So she's outside, she's being exposed to things and everything. And you're learning real time how to like stop that stuff. When it comes to the how to socialize her, we'd most likely meet back at my facility, controlled context. We don't have to worry about that stuff. And then I give you the exercises and we go through them and we practice them. And then you start applying them at home. Okay. When it comes to transferring stuff from here to home, it's typically not a problem. Okay. Because if we're in a controlled context, her number is going to be lower. And if you're in an uncontrolled context, her number is just going to be higher. Okay. So that's what's great about e-collar, the way I teach it, is just common sense. Okay. As long as you can think logically, there shouldn't be any issue with transferring. Okay. If we end up needing to do a home visit, now I do still do home visits. It's just more expensive now. Okay. Plus my travel fee for leaving the city is also expensive as well. Is if you need a home visit, one thing we can do is you come to me, we get as much stuff done, and then we save the home visits towards the end. Okay. And I can send my trainer Enrique. He's been filling in for me on home visits with some cases. He's been with me for over a year now. He's learning about behavior and everything. And he would help kind of tie up any loose ends that are happening at the home. You wouldn't pay more money in terms of the class, but you would pay his travel fee is $50 round trip. Okay. Depending how far you are. You guys are Grays Lake. Yeah. So, whereas mine is a lot more than that, because an hour of my time here would be with the client. So I have to compensate for lost business, right? So I send him to you. You'd only pay that $50 travel fee, and then he'd help with any in-home stuff. And that would be, per class that you may need. Okay. 6 is the minimum that I would do here. Okay. And we would do the heel and prioritize the behavior. If you're wanting to get more done, then 9 and 12 classes are also options to you. If you decide to do 12, I try to push as much as possible. But with the behavior being a variable, if we spend, for whatever reason, a bigger chunk of time on the behavior, we're not going to get our obedience very far. Does that make sense? Yeah. But I prioritize the stuff that's gonna be useful for you. There's no reason to teach sit if it's like sit's not going to have any place in terms of her aggressive responses or whatever. Okay. Questions? So what I would do here is Maria would reach out to you. Okay. She's going to reiterate the classes, she'll give you the pricing for 6, 9, and 12. And then the make and model of the collar that I recommend for her. In terms of when you can start, just depends on your availability. Right now, I got a lot of new clients coming in and a lot of consultation requests. And most people are 9 to 5. So my weekends and evenings are typically booked. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I don't know when she could have you start just because my schedule changes every day. But she'll get you in as soon as possible. I'm trying to think. The last option for you, just so that you know, is I have a behavior program. Okay. So what I'm giving your obedience programs, and I'm telling you how much I can accomplish within that time frame. With the behavior program, you're paying more money. Okay, not technically upfront, but you're paying more money, and it's more so for a warranty or guarantee. Okay, that's for the life of the dog.
Okay.
So if you do 6 classes, or let's say you do 12, you do 12 classes, we hit the end of 12, and you're like, man, Jesse, this has been great, but we're still struggling with this one behavior, and you need 2 more classes. You would pay for 2 more classes. With the behavior program, you're paying more so for that warranty / guarantee, is that it's covered with the program. Okay. So like Doug, that dog I just told you about, he's on the behavior program. Okay. Because dog's off his rocker. And they want to know that for his life, if something happens a year from now or a year from when they complete training, whatever, they give me a buzz. We come back. You need 3 classes, no problem. We adjust or address whatever happened, and then see you next time if needed. Okay. So it's for the life of the dog. If you do the behavior program, we do the full training. Okay. We're going to do full obedience trained, all 6 commands. We build to as far as off-leash reliable as possible, and the behavior stuff. So if you hit 12 classes and you need 4 more, we do 4 more classes. Okay. You don't pay more money. It's covered under the program. And then, like, let's say you finish your program, you're happy with your results. Lucy's doing great. 3 years later, she has a negative experience. It sets her back. You let us know. We schedule you in. We get you in for some classes. What's going on? Okay, it's going to take 3 classes to fix. I fixed the problem. We good? Great. Let me know if you need something else. Okay. That program, just so you know, is priced at $4,250 because it's for the life of the dog. Okay. And you also get a discounted travel fee if you need me to come to your home. Okay. Just so you're aware of that. So those are your options. 6, 9, or 12 classes at a fixed price. And if you need more, you pay for more. Or you can do a behavior program, and then Maria will break down payments and all that stuff with you. But that's going to be for the life of Lucy. Okay. Anything else?
No.
I don't think so.
Yeah, no, you went over everything, so thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. I've been doing this a really long time, so. If you need anything else, you let us know. Otherwise, Maria will get in contact with you. And I highly suggest, if you want to get a feel for like how this stuff works, Doug is a good video to watch. He's a recent one. So if you go to my YouTube and search Doug, he should pop up. He's only got like 3 videos up: the consultation, his first lesson, then his second lesson. Okay. Awesome. It was a pleasure talking to you guys. If you need anything else, you let us know.
Of course.
Yes,
Thank you
thank
so
you very
much
much.
for your time.
You're welcome. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.